I have known enough of these to keep going through many layers of awakening, and as they reach and spread across the world, it is necessary to spread these explanations, and they are very difficult to embrace. With this, I give you Thoth. I'll tell you an extremely difficult story that it has not been time to share. Nearing the end of the civilization you know of as Atlantis, there was a dynamic balance that created the peace that all beings knew to be normal. This peace existed within musical harmonies, within the energies of the civilization's presence as human on Earth. Within this dynamic balance, there was a resting place. It was a place of peace. It was also a place that had been earned. Essentially, it had taken a long time to clarify this place and to make it a deep space of peace. It existed in a way that was cherished, for in a manner that is difficult to communicate to you within the consciousness you currently inhabit. It is very crucial to generate resting places in this way. And then the rest was destroyed. To appreciate how damaging this was, it is necessary for you to understand that the beings who stayed into that time were heavily invested in their existence as humans on the earth. And I do encourage you to appreciate us as essentially human. It is a human potential that exists far beyond the range of what you know to be possible. It is a human potential that exists within the bodies that you inhabit now. This potential is very far from realized within your current experience, and yet it is crucial that you recognize the direct link between our presence in those bodies at that level of creation and your current experience within the body you currently inhabit. And then, within this level of attainment, creation, and even a pinnacle of possibility, Gaia herself invited beings into the peace. Not only did she invite beings into the peace, she invited beings into the peace that were essentially entirely out of tune and in opposition to the rest of what we had created. This was done on purpose. It would be most appropriate for you to appreciate this as more analogous to the winter coming to replace the fall, to the death of the leaves and the hibernation of the trees, to the return to the earth of the life that has been, and the necessity of moving through a transition that is devastating to those who thrived within the summer. To appreciate the story in this way is to remove yourself from an overly anthropocentric understanding of what happened. This is crucial because the hints of this story you have likely inherited are far too anthropocentric. I shape it this way entirely for your benefit, for I speak of the Nephilim. These beings were not just the descendants of Atlanteans. They actively existed on their own outside of what we created. They were not fallen in the manner you likely have been taught to understand. We all fell together. The simplest distinction is to recognize that the Elohim are those of us who created Atlantis, earned the layers of consciousness and experience within human form, and generated the peace that I speak of with such reverence. And the Nephilim were those who were invited into this peace for the purpose of destroying what had been. This was within the cycle of the earth herself. It was not a punishment. It was not generated by a greed in a fallen consciousness. It was a shift in consciousness from what we created as human, down in vibration, into a density of experience that was essentially colonizing new vibrations. To appreciate the significance of this experience, you must appreciate that many of us chose to stay through this time, to embrace the levels and presence of reverence that we hold human life as a part of the earth. You must experience that it is, in a certain way, not possible to witness the beauty of this place without experiencing devastating sorrow at its destruction. In short, none of us would have destroyed this of our own accord. And that is why it was necessary to invite these beings into our space. In a certain way, they have not fully been here. This is difficult to communicate to you without experiencing it yourself, which one day you may do. It is entirely common to have part of your consciousness in one place and part in another. A part of their consciousness inhabited the space we knew to be our peace, and they knew that they were invited in to destroy what had been. Not only were they invited in to destroy what had been, they were invited in to stay and to lead you through the hells to come. To experience this is to know great sorrow. To experience this is to witness the depths of the pain that have truly led you through his story. For many beings naturally gravitate back into the love that is natural to you. Many beings naturally gravitate back into the care and compassion, the kindness and the love of life. In short, no one would do what they did. Before I explain more, I will tell you this. The Nephilim are leaving now. They are, in a sense, already gone, although their presence within the material plane still has several dramas to move through before they fully depart. This is crucial to understand for what I tell you next. Their time is coming close to an end. The role they were invited to play has been necessary. To appreciate why it was necessary, you must embody a witness, a form of seeing this reality that is difficult to bear. In essence, wars and violations of the human temperament and consciousness have been necessary. It is awful to embrace this. It is painful to recognize it, and it is almost impossible to conceive when put into personal perspective. Essentially, None of those you know to be human would ever do what they do. This is not an excuse or a defense of the violations they have perpetrated. This is an explanation that will allow you to release them. In essence, two stories have been occurring at the same time. One has been the most crucial. You have been generating the forms of consciousness that will recreate and surpass the forms of being that we experienced and embodied in Atlantis at its best. You will be this also, and in so doing, you will fully be present in your body in a vast range of potentials that you have likely only begun to recognize. The creation of human consciousness in this form, in the unique expression that is yours, has been the most important act of being alive through the course of many incarnations in your many lifetimes. And the other role has been to digest karmas. The terrifying truth of this other role is that karmas regularly create themselves in forms that seem acceptable at the time. Thus, deeply loving beings accept the state of their existence under circumstances that are absolutely unacceptable from the perspective of the true depth of human potential. And this is the root of the need for the destructions, the cycles of wars, the cycles of tearing down what you created were essential to keep you moving towards your true potential. You would never have been able to do this without their presence. They induced the wars. They broke the laws. They undermined the stabilities. They refused to let you stay where you were. And they did this at Gaia's direction. And to accept it is to accept that Gaia has visited these devastations upon you. And once you know these, it can be deeply challenging to want to stay with her. Once you realize this, it can be appalling on levels that are difficult to recover from. And I invite you through to reach beyond the recognition of these participations in the destructions of history, and to recognize that they were done with deep purpose, to bring you into the deeper potential that you are now being invited into. It is time to embrace who you are truly meant to be. It is time for you to embrace that none of the best of what you have known throughout thousands of years of existence have been nearly good enough to sustain. Within human life as it has been far too tempting to stay with eras of peace when those eras themselves were far away from your deep potential. The deep potential that you are being invited into is your birthright. I am reaching my heart to you now to invite you to trust this. Please stay. If this video has moved you, please help. We need so many layers of participation because rebuilding this sanctuary does indeed begin in our hearts, all across the world. Visit the website, wildflowerfire.com, linked in the description.